I can never thank you enough for your affection, your attention, how much you send messages, and comment on the videos. Thank you very much, okay? So let's get to our video today. It's very difficult to live with toxic people. In fact, they are those people who the more you spend time with, the worse you become. They bring bad feelings and drain our energy. You may have toxic people in your work environment, in your friendships, in your romantic relationship, and also in your family, or in your husband's or wife's family. How to live with these people? I think it's interesting to share these videos, and today we're going to talk about how to live with toxic family members. Many people grow up in dysfunctional families, toxic families. And this happens frequently and, often, the person doesn't even realize it. How many times do people comment on videos, "Wow, I detected it, I didn't know, but now I know what you're talking about. I lived it, I didn't realize it." So this really happens. Toxic family members are even more complicated. Because, often, you cannot escape or avoid it as necessary, as this severely affects our quality of life. But you don't need to live with toxic family members just because you have the same last name and genetics. Just because that person is part of your family doesn't mean they can harm you and you have to get screwed. That's not how it works, no. Blood and emotional ties cannot explain toxic situations within your family system. So, it's not because it's your family that you have to put up with everything and be severely harmed, emotionally, psychically, because a toxic person really shakes our structures. There are signs that show you if this could be the situation you are experiencing with someone in your family. So, for example, there is a lack of reciprocity. Every healthy relationship is good for both people, it is an exchange. Contrary to what some people think, this is not interest, a game of interests, but everything in our lives works on the basis of exchange. If I treat you well, I want to be treated well. If I help you, one day I would like to have your help. It's not like this? We exchange pleasantries together. When there is no reciprocity, you only give affection, attention, assistance, then something is not right. If only you do this, if only you take the initiative for everything and there is no return, there is no counterpart, it could be a relationship based on selfishness and interest. The second point, when your family member is only with you in good times. In good times, everything is fine, everyone respects each other, they participate in all your barbecues and parties, but when you're bad, when you're at your worst, they disappear. So, this is also an indication that you need to keep an eye on. Another characteristic, they make you feel guilty. Toxic family members always make you feel guilty. You don't care, you don't show up, you don't care, it's just you who doesn't care about your cousin, your uncle, your grandmother, your mother-in-law. And then you feel the role of pleasing and calming everyone. So, this is really very complicated. And, generally, the family member who complains about all this doesn't do what he said he is demanding of you. He doesn't call either, but he thinks you have an obligation to call. So, it is also an indication of toxicity. Victimism is also a very complicated thing. Everything you do generates a drama, a scene. This victimism is characterized by the form of control, because acting as a victim, as if everything and everyone were always against that person, then they draw attention to themselves, holding others hostage to their whining. This is a form of control. And, not to mention that it's difficult to live with a person who is always whining. It's make bad. A gossipy relative is also very complicated. He is the one who always gossips like someone who doesn't want anything, but is always sowing anger and discord. So, he goes to so-and-so's family there, to his aunt, he talks bad about you, then what the aunt said, he comes to tell you. It's a back and forth process, it's a really complicated thing. There is also the overprotective relative too. It could be a grandparent, a father, a mother, who always makes you feel insecure about taking any initiative and leaves you incapable of having autonomy, and you become emotionally dependent. This really is quite complicated, it is very toxic and it can permeate your entire life. This feeling of lack of autonomy. There may also be a toxic person in the family who never has money. You know that person who is always in need of help. The family wants you to help. If you don't help, it's all your fault for the person's failure. So, this is very complicated. Sometimes, we see this a lot between brothers. The family wants the other brother to help the other, and, if he doesn't help, he is the villain. So, this is wrong. It is giving a child a role that is not theirs. This also applies to that envious, lazy relative, a really very complicated relationship. Families, our families, to some degree, always have someone like that. We also have narcissistic mothers and fathers, with all that this causes in their children's lives. Soon we will have content talking more about these parents. There is also that family member who is an expert in judging. They are always judging you, your actions, your decisions, your jobs, boyfriend or girlfriend. The judgment of a healthy family helps you resolve a doubt or problem. And so. But there are judgments that belittle us, lower our self-esteem and hurt our feelings. It's the gossipy relative. The one who visits you, searches your life and tells the whole family. Sometimes we have a family member like that. It's the relative who is always angry with everyone, always fights with others, and thinks that everyone is wrong, only he is right. Then, if you're going to have a meeting at your house, he says, "Is so-and-so going? If so, I'm not going." Then you stay in that tight skirt, because if one doesn't go, the other doesn't go, and you didn't fight with anyone. It's very complicated. This happens commonly. There's the relative who gets involved in everyone's business, but if you talk about his family, he becomes a jaguar and breaks up with everyone. He just wants to talk, but he doesn't want to hear anything. There is also, sometimes, and in many families, a family member who has addictions, alcoholism, drugs, where the whole family tries to help and often fails, and then it ruins everything. All of this complicates the entire family structure and becomes a really heavy, very complicated environment. Many toxic situations and people can be part of our family, including ourselves. We can be toxic. Of course, to a small degree, these things can happen in all families, but in a functioning family, these attitudes are reviewed and improved. But we are talking here about families that have a greater degree of toxicity, of harm to family life. But then, how to act? If you identify these situations, really try to become aware of the situation, pay attention to how they act and how much it makes you depressed or uncomfortable, how much it shakes you. Toxic people have a great power of persuasion, through emotional blackmail and control. This can come from your parents, your child, your mother-in-law, the people you love and care about. If you have detected all of this in a family member, trust your perception, your intuition, and gradually move away. It's not that you will disappear, but you will preserve yourself. Even preserve the family relationship, but you shouldn't get involved in the drama, don't get too involved. Reduce coexistence, make your life and your rules. If you can't physically move away because you sometimes live with your family, move away emotionally. Shield your feelings, don't absorb, listen, but don't take it for yourself. Understand that that problem belongs to the person. So, get involved as little as possible. Set limits firmly, really firmly, and politely. For example, if your mother-in-law speaks badly about you to everyone, if your sisters-in-law compete with you and belittle you or promote fights between you and your husband, set limits. Talk politely and say that you understand what they do, and propose a truce. If it doesn't work, walk away. Talk to your husband or wife and come to an agreement on a strategy to live better without these interferences. If your parents don't respect your choices and decisions, if they interfere in the education you give your children, thank them for their concern and set limits. They need to understand that you are a thinking and independent being, that you know how to raise your children, that, if you need a tip, you will definitely ask them. Always speak with respect and affection, because they often do this out of excessive zeal, or because they don't realize it, and also because they want to continue to be part of your life. But everything has limits, even for fathers, mothers, and children. We have to respect each other's individuality. If living together is really difficult, then walk away. Family is our foundation, it has enormous importance in our lives. If they hurt us, they can also be the most destructive thing in our existence. So that's why it's delicate. So don't feel guilty if you need to step away. Get along as necessary. This attitude can prevent a definitive breakup, which is much sadder, isn't it? We can't run away from our family, but we can learn to deal with all of this, because you can't change people, but you can seek a distance that allows you to have peace and autonomy over your own life without need to break up. There are cases where a breakup is very necessary, there is no other way out. But, before that happens, we can really protect ourselves and try to live together with respect. Did you like the video, guys? A big kiss. I hope you have very few toxic family members. And until the next video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Kisses, guys. Until the next video.